So this is the first little exercise that we're going to do with the E minor chord. And just to get us starting on some basic strumming and basic chord patterns so we can have something to play. This is the first chord we're going to go with, E minor. I'm holding the fifth string. Notice the first string is the thin one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm pressing at the second fret. First fret, these frets, second fret. And I also have my middle finger on the fourth string, 2, 3, 4, second fret. My goal is to get as close as I can to the fret without crossing it over. When I'm holding these two spots, you can see that middle finger has no problem reaching it, but the index finger has to move a little back to make room for it. I mean, if you can sit hours and spend on trying to do this, but it's a waste of time and energy. You're going to have to make room, press harder, and get that E minor chord. And we're going to strum across all the strings. Key important thing, timing. Your hand is strumming across the strings on the beat exactly at the same tempo the whole time. 1, tuck, tuck, like clockwork. And you can, some songs are really fast. Some songs are really slow, but they maintain the same tempo the whole time. And that's the first thing you want to make sure you have. The next chord we're going to do is some D thingy over F sharp, blah, blah, blah. We're basically going to spread our fingers apart. My pointer finger is going to move to the sixth string. My middle finger is going to move one string down to the fourth string. And again, I'm going to strum over all the strings. 1 on the beat. And your first goal is to be able to kind of switch from one to another without stopping your right hand. So I can stay on this chord. And what will happen in the beginning is probably stop, relocate a finger, okay, I'm ready, and then go on. And in the beginning that's fine, but what you want to do is be able to do this and switch to the other chord without having to stop. See, I'm on this chord, I got a nice sounding chord. Okay, I'm going to reel it in 4, 3, 2, 1, and I made the switch possible. Next thing you want to do is focus on how long you're going to stay on each chord. And for that, we're going to stay one measure on each chord. One measure usually, not always, means 4 beats. 4 is the most popular setup for this, so that's where we're going to start. And we're going to stay 4 strums on each chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and back and forth. Notice I can keep that same timing going. I never have to stop my fingers, never have to stop my strumming. And that's basically your whole song. I want to talk also a little bit about experimentation here. And what I'm going to do now, first of all, let's talk about the strumming a little bit. If you listen to the song, you'll probably be familiar with more. That kind of groove happening there. If you see, my right hand still moves up and down the same tempo. It's just in the way I strum it, and that goes into am I strumming on the way up? Am I strumming on the way down? Am I hitting thick string, thin strings, anywhere in the middle? And am I muting the strings? There's a lot of elements that go into that, which I will talk more in future videos. But and they're also built around feel and instincts, and just kind of guessing your way around. So by all means, experiment with that. Learning that comes from trial and error, and spend time experimenting with how you strum and how you feel it, just so you get to learn the guitar. Another thing I want to point out is I'm using these two fingers for our purposes here, but feel free to experiment with different fingers. This is probably how I would find the most comfortable for me. Personally, I got my ring finger on the 4th string 2nd fret and my middle finger on the 5th string 2nd fret. And the same idea, I spread my fingers apart. It doesn't really matter which version you're doing, as long as you're pressing on the right spots and switching between the chords at the right time. Nobody ever turned away from buying a song or a music because of the fingerings that the players on the recording used. The reason why it's good to practice it both ways is because you never know what's going to come next, and get used to holding both options so you can experiment with it and always have a good, easy thing available for you to make the switch. Here's a perfect example of why we want to practice the E minor using two different settings of fingers. This next song I'm going to go over actually uses the E minor chord and the C chord, which looks like this. My pointer finger is on the 2nd string, 1st fret. My middle finger is on the 4th string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2nd fret. And my ring finger reaches all the way out here on the 5th string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at the 3rd fret. If you notice, if I'm using this E minor, I got the luxury of keeping my middle finger right where it is. It's an anchor I can use to make the switch. I don't have to move it. If I'm using this fingering for the E minor, I have to lift up both fingers, relocate all of them. Another good reason is later on, as we develop this song, we're going to have that E minor 7, E minor with some extra little notes, and then if you're using these two fingers, it's a lot easier to reach those notes. This is you can kind of see it over here. I'm feeling a bit of a stretch, having to reach with my pinky a little further out. So the first thing you want to do is just kind of practice that switch. E minor to C, and just get comfortable with that without having to stop your hand. Just back and forth. Okay, now I'm just showing off. Next step is learning the sections of the song, and there are 3 sections in the song. The first one will be the intro, which is also used for a bridge, and the way that one looks, it's 2 measures of C, 2 measures of E minor, and repeat it, which means we're going to play, so 2 measures of C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 measures of E minor, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to repeat that again. C, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that we repeated those 4 measures. The next section is the chorus. There's actually a verse first, but the verse has something I want to address, so I'll save that one for last. So we'll start with the chorus. And the chorus is 2 measures of E minor, 1 measure of C, 1 measure of E minor. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, another measure of E minor, 2, 3, 4, 1 measure of C, 2, 3, 4, 1 measure of E minor, and we're going to repeat that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, second measure, 2, 3, 4, 1 measure of C, 2, 3, 4, 1 measure of E minor, 2, 3, 4. The key thing on this, and it's going to happen in the verse too, is because our progression starts and ends on an E minor, it's important to keep track of where you are in the progression. 2 measures, 2, 3, 4, C, E minor. We have to start again, so we actually have to do 2 E minors from this point after we already did 1 measure of E minor. What a lot of people do at the beginning, they forget, they lose the count. As a result, they switch to the C too early, and that's when we get lost. So that's the chorus. Last but not least is the verse. And the verse, again, like I mentioned in the chorus, it starts and ends on an E minor, so it's important to keep track of where you're at so you don't switch chords too early. The verse also features a measure where half a measure is one chord, the C, and half a measure is the other chord, E minor. So each one will get 2 strums as a result. It's 3 measures of E minor, 1 measure of C, half a measure of C, half a measure of E minor. And we're going to repeat the whole progression twice. So we got E minor, 2, 3, 4. Second measure of E minor, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the third measure, 2, 3, 4. C 1 measure, 2, 3, 4. Half C, 1, 2. Half E minor. And again, E minor, 1. Second measure. Third measure. C 1 measure. Half a measure C, half a measure of E minor. And there's your verse. Now all you gotta do is put it all together, right section at the right time. So we're gonna go intro, verse, chorus, intro, verse, chorus, and we're gonna finish it off with 1 strum of E minor and letting it ring at the end, just to finalize everything. So the whole song looks like this. Intro. Remember, every section is repeated, so here's the intro again. Verse 1, 2. Second measure. Third measure. 3, 4. 1, 2. Half a measure. Half a measure. E minor. 3, 4. Remember, we're repeating the verse. Third measure. 1 measure of C. Half C, half E minor. Chorus, 1 measure of E minor. Second measure, C, E minor. And repeat the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, E minor. And another verse. 1, 2, 3. C, 2, 3, 4. Half C, E minor. Repeat the verse. 2, 3, 4. Second measure. Third measure. C, half C, half E minor. Chorus, E minor. C, E minor. The chorus again repeated. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. C, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Intro. 2 measures of C. Verse 1, 2. Second measure. Third measure. 1 measure of C. 1 measure. 2 measures. 3 measures. C. Chorus. C. And finish with 1 E minor at the end. And that's your whole song. I want to add a couple little things that could make the song come alive a little more and can make it a little more interesting. And the first is going to be a little twist on the chorus. The chords are still going to be the same, but we're going to add a couple little decorations on the first 2 E minors to give them a little bit of a hauntier kind of flavor. What we're going to do, the chorus, if you remember, is 2 measures of E minor, 1 measure of C, 1 measure of E minor. So the first 2 measures, we're going to play first an E minor 7, which looks like this. It's basically an E minor chord with the addition of the pinky or ring finger, whichever one you find more comfortable, on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. One thing you may notice is that my first string isn't coming out this clearly. No big deal. The important is that the 2nd string note comes out, because that's the note that's going to make the difference. Next, on the 2nd measure, instead of a regular E minor, we're going to do an E minor 6. And all that means is we're going to play an E minor and add the 2nd string, 2nd fret. I like to do it with my ring finger. Some people like their pinky instead. Whichever one works for you would be fine. So I got 1 measure of E minor 7, 1 measure of E minor 6, 1 measure of C, 1 measure of E minor. If you notice, the magic happens on the 2nd string, and that's where you want to make sure you get the sound out. 2nd string 3rd fret, 2nd string 2nd fret, 2nd string 1st fret on the C, 2nd string open on the last E minor. that's where you get a little bit of haunting of quality to that chorus, which helps the song a lot. The last thing I'm going to talk about here is using your finger instead of strumming across the strings with a pick or with fingers, however you do it. Using your fingers to pluck adds a nice little element that really works well with the song. What I'm doing is a sort of a pinching motion, and I'm using my pointer, middle, and ring finger to pluck the thin string. My ring finger is plucking the first string. My middle finger is plucking the second string. My pointer finger is plucking the third. The thumb is going to pluck one of the bass string. It's going to change actually depending on the chord and on the situation. For starters, you can just do that for the E minor with the thumb plucking the sixth string. There's my E minor chord. And for the C, my thumb is the fingers are going to stay their assigned strings. My thumb is just going to switch to the fifth string. And that works really well for that intro, or it works for the whole song. And here's the intro. Notice that one of the things to watch out for is to avoid doing these. Keep your hand close. You can even practice with a chair or something, or close to the wall, so you get used to keeping your hand close to the strings and not letting it fly off in a gazillion different directions. Next, we're going to talk about the verse, and I'm going to do basically the same thing, but I'm going to add a little twist on that C chord. Whenever we get to the verse and the C, 1, 2, 3, 4, second measure, third measure of E minor, here's the C. If you notice, what I did is I plucked the C just like I did on the intro, but I rotated my thumb moving from the fifth string to the sixth string, and I moved my ring finger on the left hand on the fretting hand as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the half a measure, and back to the E minor. So really slow, it looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, half a measure, 2, 3, 4. Last but not least, on the choruses, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pluck the thumb, but only on the first beat of every part. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice the thumb only cooperated on the first beat of the measure of every set of 4. When you add that haunting effect on the second string, it sounds like this. And that's everything.